Welcome back. It's a Sheffield Wednesday special, unashamedly, and why should we be ashamed about that on this show this evening? Going to balance that in future weeks. Obviously, we're going to have a very balanced show next week with another book, yet another book. A guy who worked for both Sheffield football clubs. He's got a book out, and it's very interesting, quite explosive in parts. I've been reading through it today. I've got about halfway through. That'll be next week, and the following week there's a very, very, very special guest for Sheffield United interest. More will be revealed on that. Not that we haven't got a special guest this evening. The author John Dyson of this, Sheffield Wednesday back in the big time, 1984 to 86, and Chris Turner, former goalkeeper, manager, and obviously supporter of Sheffield Wednesday. One of the features of this which really came home to me, more reflecting on it than it did at the time, was Howard Wilkinson's tactics, which were really innovative. The three centre-backs, which he persevered with for more than one season, which worked so well. No, I don't think anybody, John, I don't think anybody else was doing that at that time.
No, certainly not commonly. And even Howard himself hadn't done it beforehand when he was at Boston or Notts County. He found himself at Sheffield Wednesday with a surfeit of very, very good centre-backs and figured out what was the best way to get these players to win football games. That was his way forward.
The skill was making the best use of what he...
Well, Jack Charlton before Howard played a front sweeper, which was never been seen in English football at that time.
Right.
We're in the 3rd division, and Jack employed Jimmy Mullen to sit in front of the two centre-halves. So not the third centre-half behind the two, played one in front of the two centre-halves. But no, I said earlier, Howard was before the time of a lot of coaches, and he looked at his players, he looked at his squad, and he probably thought, you know, the three centre-backs are three main leaders in the squad. I've got to play them all. Right, we'll play a 3-5-2, 3-4-3, whatever formation, and you know, your team is about the players in it, and you've got to have the leaders in your team in key positions, and Howard realised that those three players are three key players in the squad, and that was a way for them to go forward.
And they were out and out centre-backs, weren't they? They absolutely were defenders first.
Well, that's how defending. That's how defenders played in them days. You defend first, and if you can pass a ball 15 yards, that's a bonus. Nowadays they can hit balls 60 yards. The top class players now, and they can play 1-2s and come out from the back. But in those days, a centre-half was a stopper, a header, and a kicker in terms of getting the ball up the field or in the stand.
I was thinking that there's the parallel that today both Sheffield clubs play three centre-backs. They play 3-5-2-ish, you know, whereas this was more 3-4-3. But the winger, the fullbacks were effectively the wingers, weren't they? You got Worthington and obviously Mel Sterland. But the idea that, you know, in those days that anybody would do what Sheffield United do with these overlapping centre-backs, I mean, that was that's another story. But it was interesting. What did you think was the best interview that you conducted with former players, the most revealing one? Did you feel?
It's interesting sometimes. I think if you speak to players who've played lots and lots of games and been in the media and been kind of in the public eye in the years since, they can be a little bit more guarded sometimes, and they kind of know what to expect and know what to come back with. So, for example, Tony Gregory, who played a handful of games before getting injured, his was a fascinating interview. He hadn't perhaps talked to the press too often, or talked to people like myself too often. So, those kind of stories that are perhaps a bit less well told.
Like he was left off the team coach.
Yes, exactly.
His early games.
Exactly. Yeah. He was named as number 15. They forgot him and left.
He had to make his own way to grow. And I like John Pearson's story as well about when he didn't know how he'd get on with Howard when Howard took over, because I think they'd had England. He was with the England under 21
I think Jack Charlton had told him to report injured to the under 21s. I think I'm not quite sure how injured he was, but he reported injured to Howard, who then didn't talk to him in all his time with England.
So a very nervous John Pearson. We know John is a lovely lad. You know, you know him better.
Sort
of did a little on Howard's office door.
With a sponge.
Yeah. And we can't actually say what Howard's response was. It was, are you my centre forward?
Yeah.
But there was another word in the middle of that. Are you my centre forward?
Yeah.
And this timid knock at the door. And he made him go out the door and knock again.
Yeah.
Which again is kind of
management psychology, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then Ashes did that to me, because when Lenny was manager, I was an apprentice, and I walked into the tea room to get all the coaches. My job that particular time, that day, was to make the tea for the coaching staff. So I had to carry a tray of tea, milk, cups, sugar, and carry it in, place it on the coach's table, and I did that, and I walked out, and within seconds of me going out the door, "Oi!" and it was Len, shout me back in. "Come here." He says, "Pick that up, go back out, come back in and say good morning to us all." So I had to pick it up, go back out, go back in, put it down, good morning, morning. Communication. It's what football's all about.
And it taught you something.
And it taught you straight away. Every time I saw a coach or did anything like that with the coaches, I communicated with them.
A simple lesson.
Simple lesson. Yeah. Same with John. Howard would have wanted John to be that centre forward, which he was, eventually then, to be up that front and being that ferocious centre forward, get his head on the end of things, get some goals, which he did. He didn't want him being that timid centre forward up there who was just jogging around and just a few flick-ons. He wanted somebody up there, so he wanted to get some sort of response and aggression out of him, and that's the way of doing it sometimes.
This is all very clever. There's a theme as well in your book, John, about whether the players or the nucleus of players in that team, which did exceptionally well. And by the way, they only used, you pointed out, 28 players across a couple of seasons. You know, the players were mostly fit, and you know that's another story. But how many of them were discards from? You know, how many of them were kind of players who, in Laurie Madden's words in this book, had a point to prove? You know, Laurie felt that was partly the success, because they didn't arrive there as you know, established top flight players or even second tier players, did they?
I think the answer to that's partly, isn't it? And I think that there were players who perhaps hadn't succeeded elsewhere. Laurie, you mentioned, was looking for a new club. Martin Hodge from Everton. A bit harsh to describe Mike Lyons as a discard from Everton, but his time there was up, and he moved on. But Howard brought in players who were in great demand. Imre Verardi, we mentioned there, a quality Division 1 striker. Gary Thompson had been the top scorer for West Brom for the last couple of years and was the club's record signing at the time. So he got players who hadn't necessarily... Simon Steinrod.
Brian Marwood was a highly sought-after player from Hull City.
Yes,
he was an excellent player.
Excellent player. Came up through the leagues and went to play for England. So I can't say that all of them were discards from elsewhere. I think they were all committed.
But Lee Chapman came under a cloud, having sort of failed at
Sunderland and failed at Arsenal.
I can tell you a story about Lee's side, because I got called up. I've known Howard for a long time, since I was 14, 15 years of age. And Howard said to me, he said, to come round his house. So I went round his house, and he got this like double sheeted paper, strikers' names, appearances, goals, anything else that were data that you got in those days. And he says, there's a name, you know, isn't any strikers in there that you think could do a good job for Sheffield Wednesday? So I'm looking down there. I was at Sunderland at the time, so or Manchester United. No, sorry, I was at Sunderland. So I'm looking down the list, and about 10th, 12th in the list, Lee Chapman. So I'm looking down the list. I said, well, you know, obviously these boys at the top. I said, I see Lee Chapman's there. I said, what do you think of Lee? I said, well, he's had a bit of a difficult time at Sunderland, Arsenal. You know, he did great at Stoke. 500,000 to Arsenal, and I don't know what Sunderland paid, pretty much similar, 400. And he had a superb last game of the season. We needed to win at Leicester. Lee Chapman that afternoon was outstanding. Outstanding. And he said, and Howard said to me, he said, do you think he could do it for Sheffield Wednesday? I said, well, if you get balls in the box, I said, Lee'll score goals. He'll cause problems. He'll make chances by balls dropping down, etc. And he said, I'm signing him tomorrow. I said, oh, right. I says, I'm glad you've said that. He said, because we're signing him, but I wanted to know what you thought as a goalkeeper, and your thoughts on him.
It's a good job you gave that answer, isn't it? Really?
And it is a good job I gave that answer. But he had all these strikers written down and all these stats and all these things. You know, going through the players. You know that John's mentioned that he's had. He put players in the positions. He put players that he needed. He needed crosses.
Yeah.
He needed crosses. So you get Brian Marwood in one side, and you get Chamberlain on the other side.
That didn't really work out.
And you know, he got players to fit into this team.
Yeah.
And you know, I always come on your show and talk about recruitment. He was running that team. He was picking those players. He was selecting those players for those years in the recruitment, and he got players who could come in and fit into the way they played.
Yeah. He knew where he stood, which was not very favourably in terms of cash for new players from Bert McGee, who, looking back now, is a chairman you can admire for his belt and braces approach. No way was he going to run Sheffield Wednesday aground, having taken over in those dark days, you know, when they nearly folded in the mid-70s.
I remember going to Halifax.
Yeah.
Got beat. I think we got beat 3-0 at Halifax, and it was a big save our owls in the 70s. Remember that, John?
Yeah.
Bad days. They were grim days.
They really were grim days. And you referred earlier to crowds of 7, 8, 9,000. And here are Sheffield Wednesday at the same level in the third tier with 20. Well, how many will they get on Saturday against Barnsley? 28,000. 28.
Could touch 30.
Over 20 is almost guaranteed every home game. That's remarkable, isn't it, really? They took 3,300 the other night to Bradford in the, what's it called?
Papa John's.
Oh, yeah, the
Papa
Pizza
John's.
Cup. Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Well, I mean, the support for the club has been unbelievable over the years. You know, I mean, we've got two teams in the city and they're both well supported. There's no doubt about it. I mean, could you imagine, it never happened, but could you imagine if Sheffield had one team? You'd be getting 40,000 every week.
You'd probably need a stadium the size of the Emirates or something like that, to be sure that you could. Mind you, let's not. That's
no. I'm just saying. You know, we have two well-supported teams. Whatever leagues they're in. You know, the teams do get well supported.
Listen, we'd never be able to leave the studio alive if we talk about putting them together.
Oh, no. Hey, listen, I'd be the last person that would want that, you know.
I know you would, I know. We had a section in part one. If you missed it, by the way, this will be on my YouTube channel later, but two parts. Part one, this midway through part two, still got 10 minutes left. We had a section talking about what's happening now. I mean, that squad is unbelievable that Darren Moore has put together with the great support of his chairman. I count 21 players in that squad who've played Championship or even higher, and most of them, or many of them, could still play Championship. That is serious quality for that division, isn't it?
Well, you know, that's why the chairman will want promotion this season, because that doesn't, you know, I don't think they're paying 40s and 30s, 5,000 a week for these players, but they will be paying a substantial amount of money for even these young players that they're bringing to the club. But you know, it's like any support of any club, when they see new players coming in and the talent that they've got, some of these players, I mean, some of these goals that they've been scoring over the last few games at Hillsborough have just been wow. You know, you're sitting the 3 goals against Rochdale in the you know, no goalkeeper in the Premier League would have saved them.
You wouldn't.
I might have got a fingertip to him, but I don't think I'd have stuck to him. No, but you know, it's what the club deserve. It's what the supporters want and deserve. And
it's a hell of a selection poser, though, isn't it?
Well, you know, that's you know, been a slight criticism over the last 18 months is that the team tends to change too much. I think they should just get the best team, the best formation, and stick with it. and keep playing.
He's not likely to do that in my.
No, I don't. Well, Darren doesn't do that. So
no, that's not his way.
That's not his way. Yeah. But that's a slight criticism that I keep reading of. You know, the 3 or 4 changes every game.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to. You know, Darren's got to get that over by winning the games. Yeah. And if you win the games, who's bothered how many changes that are put into the team? And it's going to be hard to keep some people, I presume, happy. But hey, listen, if the team's winning on Saturday, that's all that matters.
You don't care who's been left out or rested or.
But I keep seeing names in the team. I think, where's he come from? Where's this coming from? You know, and watching them play, it's been great to watch.
Who are the key players for you?
Well, I think even though there's a young players that are there, Gregory for me is a top-class centre forward. Yeah. You know, I watched him at the late back end of last season, and you know, he's a good striker. He's higher than this level. He can play Championship, and that's why you see Middlesbrough and other clubs have apparently shown interest.
Linked with him, but as we speak,
but hopefully not. Smith, is going to be up there as a new signing that come in. The goalkeeper is an experienced goalkeeper, and he calms things down, and he reads the game well. I'm delighted for Liam Palmer, because he has had his critics at times, but he's a Sheffield Wednesday man through and through, and he's scored a couple of goals of late at Bolton and against one of the recent games at Hillsborough. You know, and obviously Barry Bannon. Barry Bannon's the man that puts it all together and pulls the strings, and I mean he set Liam Palmer up for a goal with about a 30-yard ball in the last game of Forest Green. They're key players. But these young players that are coming in have got to play with the freedom and the free spirit and utilise the talent that Darren's seen in them and knows what they can bring, and to just go out there and play. And I think with them experienced bodies in and around, I like young Byers. You know, I know he had his spat at Peterborough.
You don't mind things like that, though. Just showing.
Well, he's showing passion. And you know, in the past, some managers would have, oh, that's the end of him, and never seen him again. But you know, you look at him, and as you both said there, he's showing. You don't want to be took off.
Yeah.
Hey, how many players have we seen play in the past who would be desperate to get off that pitch?
That's not what you want.
Take me off. Yeah, I've seen some of them move. I've took players off myself and think, if you'd have run like that as you just ran off, you'd still be out there playing, you know. And but no, it's great to see the passion of a youngster who wants to stay out there and play. I mean, with Smith and that afterwards, I'm sure hey, football's about it. It's about personalities, and it's about having the willing to win, and that's what I like about that boy.
Yeah, Dali Bashiru is obviously a great talent. You've got Adenir in there as well.
Well, I didn't say them names because I can't pronounce.
Yeah, no, neither can I really. You just have to say them quickly and hope to get away with it.
But no, I mean, they're doing great. They're doing great. And the more games, the more victories, the more goals that they're scoring, they're only going to get better.
A fit Josh Windass will be the only one that I've not mentioned so far. Him in League One.
Josh Windass.
I think he's a cut above. I think for creativity and spark around that box, he can make things happen. But he, in my view, my amateur layman's view, he should be scoring more goals. What do you think?
Well, probably should be, and that's probably why he's at this level at the present time.
He's capable of it.
I think he's just had, to be fair to him, he's had one or two bad injuries that's kept him out for long periods of time. Hamstring injuries never heal up for a very, very long time. They keep feeling it and confidence that it's going to stay and that. I mean, but you're right. Well, Gregory and Windass up front with Smith coming on, or you know, different permutations.
Alex Mighton, a winger from a Premier League team, Nottingham Forest. There's that one. Wilkes as well. You know, this is why I say, you know, you look at that. And a lot of these players are impact players who could come on.
But I think that's a great thing to mention, because when these teams come to Hillsborough and stick them behind the ball, and it's very difficult to break down, and there's no space, then you put Smith on up the front and he'll win all the headers, and you get some seconds off him, for instance, if he's not started the game. I mean, it's ironic, the first game against Portsmouth at home, the crosses that were going in would have been food food for Big Smithy if he'd have been fit to play. So you know they've got players now that can change a game, and depending even on the opposition.
I think the 5 substitutes will help with that as well.
Yeah, well,
Plenty
the bigger
of
squad you've got and the more
squad.
players in that squad that you see as first team players, one, you can get them game time now that you couldn't with 3 subs, and also you can change half your team if you're having a bad afternoon. You can change half the outfield players.
So there's like 2 schools of thought. Your preferred method, looking back to the successful teams of the past, you get your team, your best team, and you stick to it. But that doesn't seem to be the modern way.
No,
it's not just Darren Moore, is it?
It's a lot of coaches today, and a lot of it's scientific as well, because 3 games in a week, players today don't seem to be able to play 3 games a week.
Strange, isn't it?
Yeah, very strange. I remember we used to play at Easter on a Friday, on a Saturday, and a Monday, and you'd only have 12 players.
It's tales of the youth and maybe so. Tales of the youth and reserves in there doing that kind of thing, 3 or 4 games in a week, and being laid out in the back of the coach, stuffing a Mars bar down to get them going again.
Because they were knackered after the
knackered,
training, weren't they?
Lots
That's
of
the
hard
word we
training.
can use. They were.
But players today, the training's all monitored. The data comes from back to the scientific people and the thing, and so and so and so and so. If they see results dropping in a player, they then go to the manager and say he's getting a bit fatigued. There's a chance of an injury for Saturday if he plays 90 minutes, for instance. There's all these things now factored. Never had them in our day. Never had them when I was a manager. It's totally changed now, the game. Totally changed.
It really has.
And for the better. I must say it's for the better.
Well, I think the spectacle, if we can just get rid of time wasting and if we can play more of the 90 minutes.
Well, I was on the radio today regarding Newcastle game yesterday, and there was another game where they actually timed the 6 minutes. That's right, there was a 6 minutes overtime in a recent game, 6 game, and the ball was only in play for 2 minutes of those 6. There was time wasting and balls not on the pitch. So fans aren't getting the money.
No, and goalkeepers are the biggest culprits.
Well, the biggest thing now for goalkeepers is that they catch a ball, then they're on the floor. I think something's got to be done about that, because it's killing the game. It is time wasting, and it's getting a bit of a bugbear when the ball comes into the box. Nice, easy catch, and boom, catch it down on the floor. It's all right when it's your goalkeeper when you're winning, but when you're trying to get a goal back and you're trying to get back into a game, it's frustrating for the crowd.
Absolutely.
I did like in the first game of the season, that 3-3 draw, there was Portsmouth took a throw in, and they did that thing where they take an extra 10 or 15 yards and chucked it, and the referee put it back the other way. Not seen that for a long time.
No, I haven't. Why don't they do that more often?
I don't know. They ought to. That's one of my little bugbears. Taking an extra however many yards and the opposition doing it.
Well, my bugbear by time we're saying going back to goalkeepers is you're watching a game of football. The guy's wasted time all through the match, and then in the last 2-3 minutes of the game, he goes and bucks him.
What point is that?
What's the point of that?
Absolutely.
As soon as the time wasting, you should tell the captain if he does this again, he's booked, and he does it the next time, he's booked, and there's still 25 minutes to play.
Can't do it again.
Can't do it again.
No.
Can't do it again.
Referees have got a big part to play.
They have a big part to
clamping
play.
down on this, and they aren't doing it sufficiently.
No, I agree. I agree.
In any way. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been a great pleasure. The last 50 minutes or so. As I say, if you missed any of it, parts 1 or 2, it is available on my YouTube channel from about 8:30 in the evening, courtesy of my friend in the control room behind the camera here, Greg, who does a great job on this show week in and week out. Remains for me to wish you, John, and this book, The Owls Back in the Big Time from 84-86, the very best of luck with it. I'm sure it'll sell very well indeed. And thank our old friend Chris Turner as well for coming in and regaling us with so many stories and really topical opinions as well. Thank you for your company. I can guarantee at least 2 more cracking shows and possibly 3 in the next 3 weeks. See you soon. Bye-bye now. Bye.